we've been moving cameras around once again. I'm actually really happy. I think that if you've been taking any of the HRart Center classes for the Qigong or the practice of now, that's every morning at 7 a.m., I swapped cameras. I have two cameras, one of which is a GoPro, which I was really excited about, but apparently it does not like distance, and so to pull it away to do the yoga classes, it was just, and the Qigong classes, it was just so grainy, but it has this really cool up close. So now I've swapped. I'm talking to you now on my GoPro, and I think I like this. I think I like it. So as you always know, we're constantly evolving and just working towards so many different things. It's interesting to me because here at HR Intuitive Institute, I would say that the messages that I want to share this month are probably the most intimate and vulnerable, yet I cannot get, because the lessons are so intense during the week, I cannot get to a place where I'm able to post and share. And those of you that have been tuning in are those who kind of just know that we're here. So one quick little kind of schedule change that we're going to make next week, just because I think it will serve me and hopefully a lot of you. Work Love Live used to be at 8 a.m. on Wednesdays, and Wednesdays are just too difficult. Fridays work really well for me, but we're going to take HRI back to 8 a.m. I have some really cool plans for the evolution of this show that I'll be bringing to you hopefully by 2021, so more to come as we build this, and really starting to see a vision for how this show manifests and how we come to you every week. So pumped about that. But let's dive into our lesson for this week. So lesson number 72 is Keepers of Sacred Knowledge. And if you don't remember, as in true tradition or very much aligned with the season, we are focused on gratitude. And I wanted to push myself to focus on gratitude at a deeper, more intimate level, and really challenge myself to know who I should truly be grateful for, or what I should truly be grateful for in my life. And that's absolutely what we've been doing. So this message is about the keepers of sacred knowledge. And I wrote in the description that in this live lesson, we'll give gratitude for those who share knowledge from a higher vibration, those who provide insight and wisdom that inspires our resiliency. So let's just unpack that for a minute. So these individuals, these people who show up from a higher vibration, means that they have awoken up, or they have continued to awaken or continue on their connected path and are at a higher vibration. So often I talk about the dissonance between ourselves and someone at a lower vibration. Rarely do we talk about coming in contact with those that are at a higher vibration than us and that dissonance that occurs. We're a little more open to it. Like, I feel myself drawn to people who have a higher vibration because I want to hear what they have to share and learn. And there's some peacefulness and calmness in hearing that. And so that is the one thing that I wanted to share. And when we're talking about these keepers of sacred knowledge, then the sacred knowledge they share is that they're able to see things and understand things from this higher vibration. And so that piece of affirmation and stillness that I talk about is that resiliency, our ability to keep moving forward, to keep charging down our connected path, is because of the insight that these individuals share with us. So these are people that have chosen to awaken, and because of that choice have made it possible for us to do the same. In my new book, The HR Intuitive, there is a chapter in there when I talk about, I truly believe that we're all called to fill a greater purpose. And in that purpose is we are essentially a domino in other people's paths that allows that momentum to carry. And so when we choose to awaken and show up, we allow those ripples to begin to happen for other people. And so these people that I'm talking about today, the people that we're recognizing, that we're grateful for, are those that we're so grateful that they chose to awake, to start down their connected path because of their choice. They have made it possible for us to do the same. And the last piece is these individuals require our trust, the trust that they know what we will one day understand, and that's in relation to that dissonance. And I want to touch on that a little bit later. We'll close on that, talking about why this trust is non-negotiable. And I also want to talk about this idea of awakening your intuitive senses, traveling further down your connected path, and really what that means in the sense of our traditional typical understanding of growth, because they're a little bit different. So, but before we do that, I think it's important for people to just hear, as I share, I'm actively on my own path. I'm actively still awakening. I'm certainly not perfect. I'm actively trying to elevate my vibration. That is the main intent of why I show up every week, is to share that with you, to share that I'm on this journey like many of you, and we're all traveling together. Yes, we may be at different points. And really, when we're talking about this work, it is about the journey much rather than the destination. Yes, I want to have an impact, and I know how I want to show up, and I know the people that I want to work with. But I have really come to understand that it's not about this big final destination that I'm working towards. This entire journey is my work, is my purpose. The way that we travel this journey, the intention that we have. I'm always going to be a continual learner, which means I'm always going to be here sharing with you as I unpack things, as I continue to elevate my vibration and understand things at a greater level. But my winding path was fully full of trust as an absolute essential. Otherwise, I would not be where I am today. I've shared briefly before that I was a highly sensitive child. I experienced things that now I'm able to maybe put descriptions to, and I'm still unpacking those because I suppressed them for so long. And that really largely was due to the fact that there just weren't a lot of resources, and the things that I was experiencing is not something that's in parenting books or stuff that we really have a resource to go. Like, what section of the bookstore or library do you really look at? And in fact, I talk a great deal about being drawn to supernatural books of any sense, because there was just whispers of what I was experiencing, not 100% alignment of it, but it was the closest I could get to unpack what was happening for me. And when 2014, I was pregnant with Zoe, and that's really when everything kind of came to a head for me. I had a really difficult pregnancy emotionally with Zoe. I just really was questioning everything, and it was really easy for me to blame it on the fact that I was pregnant and possibly that it was hormones. But I wasn't happy at work. I felt like I wasn't contributing or adding value. I was becoming very skeptical and pessimistic about what could be possible in the world. And I felt myself really moving to a very dark place. And now looking back, I know it is just because it's this accumulation of things that I had been suppressing for so long. And I had really begun to solidify being a person that was really strictly driven by the external world and what they wanted of me and what success was, rather than who I was and the essence of my being. And in fact, I had shut off so many pieces of myself that I would say anything that was truly relevant to my core was not even happening on a regular basis. There were little glimmers of hope, and really, truthfully, the only time that that happened was when I was in a physical classroom. I was in a corporate training environment. When I was in physical classroom training um, with people, predominantly leaders, but passionate professionals, which is what I've come to call and identify this audience, that nurtured me, which, I mean, if you look at what my work is now, that's what my focus is. So there was whispers of it still that kind of was the only glimmer of hope that I had. Um, but the rest of it was really, really, I couldn't stop it. And I even look back on my key relationships that were around me, how much I isolated myself, how much even in my marriage, I was just angry and full of blame and hurt, very much hurt and sad, thinking that nobody really wanted me the way that I truly am, which is why I was being forced to turn into this other individual. Um, and I think, when I talk about this, it feels so heavy, yet it is a common thing that happens in our professional environment. We mold people into what we think they should be. And because of that, we are in situations where we truly don't have inclusive work environments where people can show up and be themselves. We are struggling with innovation that is absolutely essential for organizations to thrive and to adapt, and now trying to create these safe spaces for people to be themselves. We're asking people to be themselves after they've already been in the environment for sometimes decades of being under this weight of morphing. And it's always fascinating to me when I work with individuals from a coaching aspect and we start to peel back the layers. And sometimes it's a long time of layers, and sometimes it comes very quickly. But when I can see the clear difference between the person and the position. And yes, there are always things that we have to kind of do and skill sets we embrace when we're in our professional path. Um, but the vast difference, the almost like separation of values and beliefs and visions, um, is not supposed to be that uh, uh, divergent, I guess, if I'm going to say it in any other way. Um, so yes, so even though I talk about this, this is in the book too, that, you know, I speak about this from a place of that this is a lot of people's truth. And um, I used to share all the time this story that happened to me in undergraduate about when I first started sharing this heaviness that truly does exist. And now that I've been in the work environment and I've been doing this work for close to 15 to 20 years, um, I know I know now that heaviness was existing. But I remember very early on being told by a professor that my viewpoints on what the world is dark, and I needed to basically lighten up, which was another thing that kind of added to me suppressing things down. So in 2014, that's exactly where I was. And I was so overwhelmed with doubt that anything could ever change, that there could be any difference besides feeling the way that I felt. I was in a mode of absolutely starting to trying to convince myself that this is actually what being an adult is, that we just get to this place and we just settle. And I needed to do that and be a big girl because I had a really great position with ideal kind of benefits. I had a really awesome husband. I had a beautiful family. I had supportive parents. And so I checked all the boxes. And so I needed to just suck it up and do it. it was in this mode of transitioning to settling that I also found myself just surrendering. And I think that was like a last grasp of desperation to show me that maybe there's still another path. And and so what I did was my path of awakening was primarily full of just wholehearted trust, aimlessly wandering down these paths, and just being completely open and vulnerable. It created a lot of really messy moments very early on, very early on in the creation of my business, because this all happened at the same time. And my first book, From Heart to Heart, is basically highlights of those first 3 years, and the messiness, plus a collection of some messy moments that I remember from my past. Um, but where I just trusted that I needed to be there and be present and just immerse myself, and felt the pain and felt the anger and felt um, the doubt and the anxiety and whatever it was, throwing myself into the emotion. As I continued to travel down this and getting a sense of balance in regards to trusting, which has been a previous lesson that we've talked about on this show, um, and not just going down any path that presented itself, I started to become more selective about my paths. And that led me ultimately to my traditional Chinese medicine training. As many of you have seen, that I just recently got my certificate as a medical Qigong therapist, and I am continuing on that journey. And next year, will be completing the master's level program and earning my master's in medical Qigong from the East Coast Institute of Qigong. And I'm very grateful for that program, not just because of the practice, but because of the people. Um, that course and that educational path put me in a space with so many different kinds of people. People that I don't know if I would have ever come in contact with or interacted with if I had met them in in a regular day-to-day interaction. And these people have been pivotal in such a short time frame. And many of them are these keepers of this sacred knowledge. These are individuals who truly are mentors, and have been in their lines of work for 30 plus years, and are functioning at a higher elevation. And I find myself going for these trainings and having these beautiful lunch conversations, and not even that, these in between moments that just happen spontaneously, where they provide me an insight or a wisdom that instills in me and drives my motivation to continue doing the work that I'm doing. But it's also, for me to have those moments, I have to have trust. Trust is a non negotiable. If we want to have these moments with these keepers of this sacred knowledge, these people that are functioning at a higher vibration, who have been doing the work and elevating themselves and continuing traveling down their connected path and living in alignment, trust is a non negotiable, because they have the ability to understand and see things that we do not at this moment. They are at an elevation where they understand and they see the world, they see you in a way that you cannot yet. And if you take where you are today and think about those individuals that we've talked about before, that are at another level of vibration that is lower than where you are at, because that's just where they are at in their path, and the struggles and frustrations that you may have in communicating with them, or the frustration you have when you see that they cannot see things at the same level as you or understand what you are sharing. That is what's happening here, except that you are at that lower vibration and they are at that higher vibration. And just as you would hope that those interactions, when you are at the higher vibration, that people would just trust and it would be a non-negotiable. It wouldn't be questioned, so that they could take that knowledge and move forward and grow. That's what we're thinking about here. I'm asking you to really challenge yourself. And I'm not saying these interactions, yes, they're these beautiful moments, but these beautiful blessings come from very difficult conversations. They come from constructed criticism, which is a great deal of these conversations that I have. Routinely, these are the people who tell me, you've got to do less, Sam. You've got to do less. As much as I wanted to take on the world, and how much I have tried to compress into my schedule, I'm still trying to offload less. I'm trying to move closer to the direction that I know I need to be in. And these people keep telling me, they keep reminding me how much I drain my energy and how much of a disservice it's doing to myself and my work and the people that I want to serve. These are the people who show up that even when I do destroy my energy, they help to restore me, and take that little couple of extra moments and do that. And I could easily resist all of this. I could easily tell them, you know what? You don't know me. You see me a couple times a year. You think you know me, but you don't know me, and just back up. And I could easily let ego take over. But if I take a moment and be truly grateful for every word and every minute that I get with these individuals, they have provided me something that most of us seek. Resiliency is this word that is this big buzzword in organizations right now. How do we become resilient as organizations? We want to do things as an organization, but I think we have to take one step back and think about the people that populate these organizations, because it's those people that we have not been caring for or recognizing that has now impacted the collective effect of what's happening in the organization. That trust is non-negotiable. Knowing that the messaging, even how hard it may hit, as much as you want to resist it and fight it, is the truth that you need to hear now. Sometimes they can be the most powerful lessons delivered in the most simplistic way, rather than having to experience them through these messy life experiences that I was doing at the beginning. And it makes me wonder if these people had shown up, but maybe I was not willing to present the opportunity for them to share that knowledge and insight, that wisdom. So in other words, I said I had to have the messy. I had to have the pain and the emotion and the full-on experience to learn. And that those messy experiences will grow, and they will become more painful and more heightened, emotion-filled experiences, until we can back up and say, what are we supposed to be learning here? That's the growth. And that's how it's different than what we're taught about growing. We think about leadership development, staff development, personal development. We think about adding tools to our toolkit. And that's one of the most common things. I teach a leadership development course, and I always hear time and time again from people, I couldn't wait to get in here and see what new tools you're going to give me for my toolkit. I view it differently. When we are awakening, when we are revealing, exposing, returning back to ourselves, we are awakening and lighting a guiding path of alignment and increased vibration that magnifies our ability to influence and impact and change the world. It sounds so monumental and so huge, but it's the absolute truth. And as much as I have resisted it in the past, I've seen that time and time again. So today I challenge you to think about, who are these keepers of sacred knowledge that have revealed themselves to you? Who are these people who have shared with you things that maybe you didn't want to hear, or keep gently reminding you? And maybe, even just maybe, these people are even those in those messy life experiences. Maybe it's not the true sense of these keepers of sacred knowledge, but these individuals that have been placed in this beautiful dance with you to engage in a life experience for both of you to grow. This is the week to be grateful for them too. From Heart to Heart, my first book is filled with people and these stories that were so emotionally charged and upsetting that even when I read that book again, and this is how I wrote it, that I wanted to hold on to the messiness and the pain and the anger so that I relive it every single time that I read it, but also in hopes that anytime someone else picks it up, they can feel it. But at the same time, that book is also about celebrating those individuals and those experiences and being so grateful for them showing up and engaging with me because of the lessons and the growth and the awakening that I had as a result. So look around and pay attention and take a moment this week expressing gratitude for those who are the keepers of this sacred knowledge, of this higher vibration that are showing up for you. So next week, we're moving on to lesson number 73. And just to give you a taste of what's to come, it's gratitude focused on the honest and the impartial advice. We will give gratitude for those who have high expectations and push us. It is these people who are fearless when it comes to telling it like it is. They challenge our thoughts and perspective, exposing any doubts we possess in ourselves. They remind us that our emotions are powerful, often blinding us from the clarity that we seek. So as we keep diving into this pool of gratitude and pulling from it, we're going to continue to see some really expressing some deep gratitude for some people that maybe we never thought we would be grateful for. But they really have done some really awesome things in our lives. So with that, have a great week. Have a beautiful weekend. And I will see you next Friday for lesson number 73 at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Eastern Standard Time. Eastern Standard Time. Next Friday, 8 a.m. right here. Thank you so much for joining me.